So, everybody's facing front. We're now in a position where we want to get this down pat. Ishi, can you kill the lights, please? Thank you. Okay, so let's go through each of these questions and talk about what we need to do to get them right, because I don't believe these questions are difficult at all. The other thing is this. When I made up this quiz, I looked at the kind of questions that were typically on the Math 8 assessment, and these are very typical Math 8 assessment questions. So, for those who plan on taking that test, you're going to need to know how to do these. And even if not, it doesn't make a difference, because at the end of the year, we're going to have our own final exam. And when we have our own final exam, we take our questions and model them, not word for word, but we model the questions that we're going to have on the Regents after what the state asks, so that we know our test reflects the kind of questions that the state expects you to know how to do. That said, since these all came from state tests, you should be able to do these. And there will be a point in time where if you are great at these, it will really help you a lot. Okay, so the first one says, which of the following is not a function? And let me see what this says. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so look. The correct answer to the first question is A. We talked yesterday about how to show that something's not a function. And the way to show something is not a function, Ms. Whitnabin, head in the game, looking up here, sit upright. It's very easy. This is a simple question. So if you got it wrong, Ethan, you got it wrong not because you're not smart enough. Every person in the room can get this right. You got it wrong because you didn't remember from yesterday. The only way you don't remember is if it's either been too long, which I don't think it has been, or if you didn't pay attention when we went over it. That's the likely reason. The first thing that we learned about is what we call the vertical line test. And we said that if you draw a vertical line through any graph, it should touch once and only once. If it touches only once, then it is a function. Each of these vertical lines that I just drew only touch the red graph once. None of them touches the red graph twice. Therefore, yes, this is a function. Then we said if we write them in coordinate pairs, we look to see if any of the x values appear more than once. I don't see that. I don't care about the y values. I only care about the x values. Yes, this is a function. And the reason we said that is let's look at one that would fail. This is not a function, because if I draw a vertical line, it's going to touch twice. This coordinate might be -1, -2, and this coordinate might be -1, +2. The reason they touch twice is because they're both at -1. That's why I don't care about the y. I only care about the x. If the x is the same, if it's there 2 or more times, it'll never be a function. So this one up here will not be a function. Now let's look over here. Doesn't each of these numbers have only one line going from it? So it is a function, okay? It would not be a function if I then drew the 2 and I had 2 different lines coming from the 2. Then it would not be. But look over here. Doesn't the -2 have 2 different images? That would be like having the point -2, 5 and -2, 15. A straight line would touch both of those. -1 also has 2 different images. This is not a function. So all you need to do is be able to recognize that, God bless, and that will tell you what is and is not a function. Okay, next one up, and don't forget we have another quiz tomorrow, so it's not like this is your end-all grade. Tomorrow's another turn, and we're hoping for a lot of improvement. What's the solution to the system below? Now the first thing I want you to notice is, anytime they make this a multiple choice question, they always have these things match up. So do you see how the +2 and y and the -2y match up? So I could just add them up and they go bye-bye. What's 3x's plus 2x's? 5x equals -2 and -3 is? -5. Now, usually you guys score a lot better on quizzes than you scored today. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with the fact that I gave you a calculator. And perhaps you're not good at negative numbers on a calculator. So let's everybody do this together with the calculator. I'm thinking some of you got this wrong, not because you didn't know how to do it, but because you didn't know how to use your calculator. I'm sorry, what was that? Yeah, well, I'm gonna show you how I would do it personally, and I know it works. Now, you may have a slightly different technique. If it also works and gets you the same answer, feel free to use it. Now, if I'm going to do this, -2 minus 3 here, this is how I would put it into the calculator. Is everybody ready? Everybody clear your calculator? Okay? Now, type in -2. Now, the negative button is down at the bottom. You see it says plus/minus? Type in -2, and then just type in -3. And it should say -5. Does it say -5?
Yeah.
Good. Now, you know the next step, you would divide by 5, right? So now do divided by 5. And when you do that, it should tell you that x is -1. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? All right. So that means it can't be A and it can't be D. Now, it could be B or it could be C. And I'm going to use either equation. I'm going to use the top one because there's no negatives. And the less negatives there are, the better. I'm going to plug in a -1 for x. Now, here's where the calculator can help you, but if you don't know how to use it, it could hurt you. You need to do 3 times -1 into the calculator. So type in 3 times, make sure you use the times button, and then at the bottom, use that -1 button. And when you do 3 times -1, what do you get? -3. So I have -3 plus 2y equals -2. And then I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I get 2y equals 1. This is strange. And then I divide by 2, and I get y as a half. And none of those work out with a half, but if somebody would have written me a note that it didn't work out, I would have given you credit for it. So we'll just leave that as it is and work on it for tomorrow. Next, number 3, which is equivalent, well, I have a common base. Guys, what would it be if I did x to the second times x to the third? What would that come up with? X to the second times x to the third, what would that be? Hello? Oh, okay. All right, bye. All right, so if I had x to the second times x to the third, what would I get?
X to the 5th.
X to the 5th. Notice 2 things. I add the exponents, and I keep these the same. Okay? So now I got to keep this the same. It's still 4. But now I have to add the exponents. Now, all year long, we've said what's 4 negatives and another 4 negatives. What would that be?
8 negatives.
8 negatives. Now, if you start to second guess yourself and you have your calculator, you could type in -4 plus -4, and you'll see that you come up with -8. All right. Number 4, if f of x is 7x minus 9, evaluate f of 1. So I'm going to plug a 1 in for x, and I get 7 times 1 minus 9. And then you could literally just type that into your calculator. Type in 7 times 1 minus 9. Or you could do it in your head. 7 times 1 is 7 minus 9. What's 7 positives and 9 negatives? -2. But if you typed it into your calculator, you would also come up with -2. How many people messed up questions because they weren't sure of how to use the calculator the right way? Nobody? One person? Okay. So we want to make sure that we have that going. Okay. Let's get out today's do it. And we will go over that as well. I'm looking around and I see a number of papers where the do it seems to be blank. Now I want you to run over the we want to make sure, see, I'm looking around, I see way too many blanks on those do-its. Do-its should not be blanks. Do-its are, you know, I've said this to you a number of times, but the class is sculpted in such a way that each phase brings out an aspect of what you're supposed to learn in a day. It either teaches you it new, or it comes around and reinforces something that you're supposed to know. Pretty much the only way to mess this class up is to not throw your heart and soul into the things that we're going over. Okay, volume of 1 cube is 8 times 10 to the 9th. The volume of a second is 2 times 10 to the 6th. How many times bigger is the first than the second? And boy, oh boy, is this a tricky question. A lot of people think that you're supposed to multiply the two of them because they see the words times bigger. It's not a multiply question, it's a divide question. Let me put it to you this way. I have two numbers, okay? One number is 10, one number is 2. How many times bigger is the 10 than the 2? 5 times bigger. Now 10 times 2 is not 5, is it? 10 what? Divided by 2 is 5. So we have to take the bigger number, which is 8 times 10 to the 9th, and we have to divide that by 2 times 10 to the 6th. What's 8 divided by 2? 4 times, subtract exponents, 10 to the 3rd. And which of these choices equals 4 times 10 to the 3rd? Does 4, 40, 400, or 4,000? 4,000. So D is the correct answer. Which could be the graph of y equals 5? We got our hands. You're going to do one of two things. You're either going to hold your hand like this, or you're going to hold your hand like this. Which way does y equals 5 go? Oh, we apparently don't know how to do this. This is y equals 5.
Yeah.
That's y equals 5.
What?
Listen carefully. Ready? You're not listening. Head up. Y equals a number like 5, a constant. Y equals 5 will always go through the y-axis. Say it with me. Ready? Y equals 5 will always go through the y-axis. X equals 5 will what? Always go through the x-axis. So that's how you can tell which line is which. Which is the equation of a line whose slope is 2 and whose y-intercept is -3? That would be y equals 2x minus 3, which is choice B. Next, the sum of. That means I got to add up my like terms. What's 4x squared and 1x squared? Guys, what's 4x squared plus another x squared? 5x squared. So I know it's not A or B, and I know it's not D. I'm already done. It's got to be choice C. Now, if I keep adding them up, the rest of it works out too. Okay. In the function, y equals -2x minus 5, what is the output if the input is -2? What letter means input? X. So this means do -2 times -2 minus 5. Now, for those of you with a calculator, get it out, please. We're going to do it together on the calculator so we know how to do that in case in the future we need to. I want you to type in the -2, using that negative button, times -2 minus 5. Spencer? -1's right. Another way to look at it, -2 times -2 is 4, and 4 and -5 is -1. Okay. Any questions? Good. Now, we spent the last couple days learning about a function. We're going to do one of those today, and then we're going to turn it into real world functions. This is a strange function. This is a square root function. Okay? We're going to find the square root of a number and add 2. This is actually technically a relation. It's really not a function, but I want to practice square roots and stuff. So, first things first, let's go to 100% on my screen. Ready? Y equals square root of x plus 2. Whoa! Sometimes the blue doesn't click in. Let's fill in our table. We'll do that first. If we take the 4, and I do the square root of 4, what's the square root of 4? Okay? -2 is one of the answers. Very good. I was actually going to do that one second, but I'll do it first. Look, if I ask most of you what the square root of 4 is, square root is the number that times itself is 4. So what's your first instinct when I tell you the square root of 4? It should be 2. Go on your calculators now. And I don't know if you type the square root button and then the 4, or if you do the 4 and then the square root button. Different calculators work different ways. Try it both ways, and at some point it's going to say 2. Rach?
You wrote down in the graphic version.
Yeah.
I wrote what?
You wrote the answers down on the calculator.
But it says negative.
Okay, well, we'll still go through them because I want you to know where they come from. Okay? Now, when you did the calculator, did you get your calculator to say 2? Hey, do it again. Who typed in the square root first?
I don't even know what to put in.
Oh, you don't even know the square root?
It's 1 point something.
No, it's not.
Eight.
No, ABC is fraction.
8.
Going down.
Ah. Do you guys see the x squared button over here? Look. See the x squared button? Look right above it.
Oh, I see it.
So, I'm gonna try it, ready? I'm gonna hit second square root 2, hold it clear. Second square root 4, and it comes out to be 2, okay? So, if you hit on your calculator second square root 4, you'll get 2, but then you have to add another 2, so 2 plus 2 makes? 2 plus 2 makes? 4. Now, Stephen gave me a great answer before. See, square root means the number that times itself is 4. Isn't it true that 2 times 2 is 4? Hey, look at me. Isn't it true the square root of 2 is 4? Because isn't 2 times 2 4? Is there anybody here who would argue that 2 times 2 is 4?
Yes.
Who would say no? Who would deny that 2 times 2 is 4?
No one.
Okay. Is negative 2 times negative 2 also 4? Try it on your calculator. Confirm it. Do negative 2 times negative 2. See if it tells you it's 4.
It is 4.
It is 4.
Because
Therefore,
they're both negative.
Right, because a negative times negative would be a positive, or multiplied by a negative change the sign. So the bottom line is, I really could get 2 answers. I could get 2 plus 2, or I could get negative 2 plus 2. And if I do the negative 2 plus 2, I get 0. Now, let's plug in a 1. What's the square root of 1? Come on now, what number times itself is 1? 1. And then 1 plus 2 is 3. But it could also be negative 1 plus 2 is, where are we here? Negative 2 plus 1 is 1. Now, next up, square root of 0 is 0, 0 plus 2 is 2. So I could get 0, 2, and then I get this, and then I get this. And here's my graph. So we did some calculations. Is that a function? Is that a function? How do you know it's not a function? It's crossing. What's it? Vertical line, right? Vertical line will touch twice. But we could also look at it this way. Couldn't we say the 4 has 2 answers? The 1 has 2 answers? And here they are over here and here. So vertical line test, or look in the table. As a set of ordered pairs, we could tell it's not a function. 4, 4, 4, 0, 1, 3, 1, 1, 0, 2. Look, the 4 goes twice and the 1 goes twice. Both of those indicate that that is not a function, okay? So I put this example up there to show you that we could operate like with a function, but have it work out that it's actually not a function. And if something's not a function, we call it a relation, okay? So this could also be called a relation. All right. Come on, erase. Next up, real world. Oh, which of the following are not functions? Let's do a little reminder drill here, like on your quiz, just like that quiz question. Okay, take a look at those. Some of them are functions, some of them are not functions. Figure out which are which. Is A a function? Yes or no? Yes, because each of the x values are unique. They're all different. Is B a function? No, why not? Because of the ones, right? Is C a function? No. What does it fail? What kind of line is that? Vertical. It fails the vertical line test. What about the table? Is that a function?
No,
Why?
because it's a function.
It is a function. I only look at the x's. I don't care about the was.
But then you put like the stuff on.
Yeah, but the 5 would all be on the other side.
Oh, true, okay, never mind.
True dat, right? They'd each have only one line going for them. Okay, now we get to real world functions. And you actually use this a lot. Does your dad own his garage, or does he work for somebody else?
He owns his own.
He owns his garage. Your dad does stuff like this all the time. Very similar. So for those of you who might own your own business when you get older, whatever that business is, there are function rules that guide your business. Ready? Jenny wants to start a business making websites. It costs her $50. Costs her $50 for a license and $7.25 for supplies. And each website she makes, she gets a profit or makes $125. Now, input, output. What variable is input? X or Y? X. What's the output? Y. Good. Now we're going to write a function rule. Oh, now it wants us to change the Y. The output is profit, so we're going to change Y to P. And each website, we're going to change X to W. Okay? So the profit is, now, some money Jenny has is coming in. Some money is going out. Somebody tell me money that's coming in. What?
Like wouldn't it be like you're adding?
Yeah, but in the problem, right in here, which part of that's income that she's making, that she's getting in? Is she? $125 for every website. What's numbers that she's paying out? What money is she giving out? Angela?
So $50 and then
Mhm.
$7.45.
50 and 725. Now, money that you pay out, do you take that away from your income or do you add it to your income?
Away.
Away. So we gotta put minus 775 for that. And income is 125 for every website. So my function would be P equals 125W, can we stop? Minus 775. Now, once I have this rule, I can go fill out my table. What if I plug in a 0? I love 0. What are you gonna get if you plug in a 0? No, 125 times 0 is 0, but you gotta keep going. Negative 775. These are a little bit like those old cookie problems or the temperature in the oven problems. What if I plug in a 1? What's 125 times 1? Now, on your calculators, do 125, if you want, times 1, it doesn't make a difference, minus 775. It should tell you minus 650, okay? Now you could just plug in a 2. Do 125 times 2 minus 775. That should be minus 525. Good. Now be careful, because I changed the numbers here. Try 3. What's 125 times 3? And then minus 775 is minus 400, I think. Now plug in the 8. We take a jump here. 125 times 8 minus 775.
200.
Yeah, that's a positive 225. Okay? So if she sells 8 websites, how much money does she make? $225. Now, you're going to have to sell more than 3 websites to make money, because if you sell 3 websites, you're only at negative 400. If I sell 3 more websites, that's 375. When I add 375 to the 400, I'm still gonna be negative 25. So I have to sell 7 websites to make any money. But the cool thing is, once you sell the 7 websites, you're never gonna sell the 775 again. Now it's all profit. Think about it. If you start a lawn mowing business and you buy yourself a lawnmower and it costs you $300, yeah, you gotta take a while to make back your 300, but from then on, do you have to buy another lawnmower?
Yeah, I mean, if it breaks.
Well, if it breaks, you gotta fix it. But most of the time, no, you don't have to pay another lawnmower, so you just keep making money like crazy after that. Okay? All right. What is Jenny's profit if she creates 40 websites? So now you gotta do your calculator, right? 125 times 40 minus 775. What do you get? 4,225, so she's starting to make some money now, right? And before you think this is a nuts analogy, you can ask my son Jimmy when he's subbing one of your classes. When he was in high school or just out, he actually sold websites and made $300 selling websites. So a very typical kind of question here. Hasta la vista, vaya con Dios, toodaloo, ta-ta, arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao, arrivederci, adios amigos y amigas, cheerio.